Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Today I am working on a layout that involves a lot of heat embossing and a lot of glitter. This is not something I normally do, and it is extremely messy because apparently I am a very messy person when it comes to heat embossing. And so I started out with some white cardstock, and I started with this big stamp from Pattern Happy, and it is their, let's see if I see the name of it. It's called Cloudy Day, and it's got all kinds of different clouds on it. Some have raindrops, some have a grid design in them, some have like a diagonal stripe or some polka dots, and some are not solid and some are solid. But anyway, I started out with this, and I wanted the entire background of this layout to have these clouds all over it. So I am using my stamp platform. It's the Tim Holtz one, and I am basically just making sure I stamp it down really good with some embossing ink. And you see me there like picking it up and squishing it together, and that is because I have a glass mat that has the grid over it on my desk, and it has those like little rubber feet in the four corners of the glass mat, so it does have some give to it. And if I press down really hard on the stamp platform right in the middle of my glass mat, there's some give and I don't get a really clear impression. So I either have to take it over to the table across the room or put it on the floor or squish it in my hands. And so I opted for squishing it in my hands apparently. But and I just went with a clear embossing ink. I don't want a lot of color on the background, and this is going to be a layout with a very long title, and I'm using all kinds of DIY thickers. I don't know if you have those in your stash. I have several, as you can see right there, and I want to start using them up. They've been in my stash forever. I don't see these as often as I used to, but these are the ones where you peel the top off and then you can stick glitter or whatever on the top of it and kind of burnish it in, and then they take on the color of whatever glitter you put on top. So I am going to have my layout say, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray." And I am mixing the fonts because obviously there's not enough letters in any of those one package, single packages to make that entire font or in that entire title. So I am mixing them up, and I'm using this picture of my grandson and my son-in-law, these two photos, and they are out for a walk on a rainy day. And so we have a long-standing kind of, I guess, tradition in both my family and in my son-in-law's family of singing the song "You Are My Sunshine" to the kids as they're little. And so, and in fact in my family it goes all the way back to my grandparents. That was their song, and when they were married and everything. So it kind of has a long history. And so I've done several layouts that say like "You Are My Sunshine" and such, about like my own kids and everything, and I wanted to go ahead and capture that because this was also an important song in my son-in-law's family as well, and so I wanted to capture that on a layout about the two of them. So you see I've got my letters all kind of placed out there, and at this point I think I'm just going to do "You are my sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray," but then I realize I do have enough room to get that extra line in there that says "my only sunshine," so I'm going to add that as well. And I'm still just cutting up the different thicker packs and pulling out whatever letters I think will work and getting a good mix. I don't want to have, too many tall ones right next to each other or too many short ones right next to each other. I want to have a good mix so that it doesn't look like all of a sudden I ran out of letters and now I have all the short ones at the end because I had to go find another package. So this is where, well, I already got messy with that embossing powder, because what I did when I embossed it was I picked my heat gun up, and I didn't have the embossing powder closed, and I kind of shot embossing powder all over my desk. But at this point I'm going to do glitter, so you know what, let's embrace the mess and let's just keep going. So the word gray, I want to go ahead and make that gray, and I'm using this kind of pewter color glitter. It's actually this really fine, it's almost like a powder. It's not like chunky glitter at all, but I knew I wanted the word gray to be gray. And some of these stickers are really white, and some of them kind of have a more grayish background to them, and it is a little bit noticeable in the still shots, but the layout actually looks a lot better in person than it does, I think, on camera. So um, I'm just going to go with it at this point and see how it comes out. So these letters I'm actually doing in just a white and somewhat iridescent glitter. And then I'm going to make both of the words sunshine in yellow, and of course the gray is in that gray. And the sunshine, everything is like really glittery, with the exception of that word gray. It's, like I said, a really fine powder. The other ones you can tell it's actually like glitter, not super chunky but not super fine either. And what I'm doing is I'm just dipping them down face down, and I know the video is sped up quite a bit, otherwise we'd be here for a while because this took quite a while to do. But I'm dipping them down there, and then I'm rubbing them on the top of each letter, and I'm rubbing it into the adhesive that's already on the letter. So I'm just burnishing it on there to keep it so that it will stay stuck onto the layout and onto the letter and not just kind of rub off. And then I am taking each line and I'm lining it up on my centering ruler, which is what I typically use because it has a nice line across it. It's easy to kind of line things up. I do have the thicker guides, but don't tend to use them as much because the grid on them is a lot smaller, and I'm already using the centering ruler to kind of get things centered. So I think, I don't know, it's just what I'm used to. I've had this ruler a lot longer than I had the thicker guides. So it works for me, and that's typically what I use. However, if I'm doing multiple lines at the same time because I want to see how words nestle together, I will pull out the thicker alignment guides or another acrylic ruler or whatever so that I can get things nestled and on the page just as I want it. Once I get finished placing all of these words down, including the little commas that go between, the portions of the sentences, I am going to work on the photo area. I am going to trim 1/4 of an inch off of 2 sides of the layout, and typically when I do this, I kind of choose whichever side has the more room. Basically, if I don't have everything perfectly centered and it's a little bit off to the right or to the left, I will cut from the side that has the extra room so that my sentences or my photos or whatever it is that's on the layout is centered a little bit better. And if everything is centered perfectly, I will actually take 1/8 of an inch off of each side. But in this case, I think I only took it off of 2 sides, and that is because I'm going to back the entire layout with a piece of yellow cardstock to give it a yellow border. And I do that quite often on my white layouts. I feel like the white layout kind of feels so airy that things kind of feel like they could float off the page. I don't know if that makes a lick of sense at all, but I don't know. I feel like there has to be something to frame it. So in this case, I am using yellow paper. In some cases, I will draw a squiggly like line around the entire layout, and in other cases, I might do some stitching around it. So if you kind of feel like your layouts are like that as well, or your white backgrounds are like that as well, those are some options in order to kind of feel like everything is framed. You could also ink the edges with some distress ink or any kind of ink for that matter, and that just kind of like finishes it off on the edges. I am putting a little bit of white cardstock behind each of my photos, and I have a lot of vellum in varying colors. So The vellum is still clear, but it does give you a feel of a color. There's a bit of a tint to it, and in this case, this one is yellow, and I think that's what I'm going to use, but spoiler alert, I will be changing that. Um, so, and the main reason I do change it is because I end up going with some yellow embellishments, and I didn't want to have too much yellow. I want to keep everything kind of soft and subtle because there's a lot going on this layout, and everything that is going on is soft and subtle. From the embossed background, which is tone on tone white, to the tone on tone white thickers. There are yellow ones, but it's still kind of a soft yellow. And so everything is kind of, like I said, soft and subtle. So I want to keep with that in mind. I don't want to create things that are so bold that you don't see that big sentence or title that I have created, because that is part of the story of this layout. And I know a lot of times, or most times, your photo is kind of the star of the layout. And in this case, you don't see either of their faces. You just see them out walking in the rain. And the story behind this song is really what this is about. And the photo supports that. So I ended up going with some vellum that had a gray tone to it. And I thought that was great because it matched the gray in the word gray. And then I'm going with these yellow thickers that have different sayings or different little journaling spots. So there's one right underneath the photo there that is on gray, and it has yellow words, you and me. And I thought that's perfect because he's with his daddy, and I don't know, I just, you and me, they're together, and it's really just, it's cute. And so I do decide to have a little bit of an embellishment spot there after the word when on the lower right hand side, and an embellishing spot at the start of the title. So this page is not your typical 3 embellishment areas framing the photograph. It does have 3 embellishment areas. Actually, it kind of has 4 because there's the top of the photos and the bottom of the photos. But it works, in my opinion, on this page. So, and I don't know if that's because it's kind of framing the whole sentence or what, but it also brings a little bit of balance by adding some embellishments to the right hand side. I didn't want to have just embellishments on the left hand side because then it kind of looked unbalanced to my eye. So I add this tag at the top, and then I'm going to cut it off and make it look more like a banner piece. I'm going to trim the bottom of it so that it has the fishtail in it, and I'm going to add a couple other layers up there. I have this camera on a circle that I'm putting in this bottom right hand side, and I'm just trimming the edges of those off as they overhang. I don't want them to overhang onto the yellow. I just want them to be on the white paper, and I like how that looks. And the little piece that is on the top of the photograph says sunshine. It's just a little, it's not a tag, it's just a little piece of paper that says sunshine on it. And I thought that was cute because we have sunshine all over the paper. And I am going to add a little label above it. And there I am cutting off that fishtail. I like how that looks. And then I'm adding this other little banner piece, and I think I had to cut it a little bit bigger is what happened there. I'm not 100% sure, and that's just on white cardstock. It's nothing special, not really fancy, and I am just barely tapping the edges of it with the black distress ink, and that's just so it has a little bit of dimension. I'm not brushing it on real thick, I'm just barely tapping it so that you can see it. It kind of provides almost like a shadow effect, and I like how that looks. And then there's a foam piece that it looks like an arrow pointing down that's on top of those banners, and it just has a star on it, and I'm trying to get those foam pieces used up. I like how that looks. I'm going to add a couple of other little circular items and stars to the different areas. Little florals. I have a little sunshine on top of the photograph there. And I just like the way it looks, and I'm adding a couple of leaves to the bottom area of the photograph and to the upper left hand corner. And I feel like when you add some of the more organic shapes into your layout, it softens it up a little. And there are a lot of organic shapes in this one just because there's like the scripty font that's softer. It's not all blocky, but I wanted to bring in some softer shapes to especially that upper left hand corner, because there are a lot of hard edges there, and there's not a lot of hard edges anywhere else really. Some of the letters are more blocky than others, but it's still overall kind of a soft effect. So I'm going to add just some enamel dots, and I am going to pretty much be done with the layout. So I have close-ups coming up, and I hope you check those out, and like and subscribe if you would, if you're not a subscriber already, that is, and if you are, I really appreciate your time and spending it with me today. And that's pretty much going to do it. You can leave me comments down below, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Sometimes it's not right away, but I do read my comments and I do respond. So thanks again. Here are the close-ups. Bye.